The deeper scientists explore the ocean, the less life seems to make sense. Fish with transparent heads, creatures that produce their own light, animals so soft they look like living jelly. And in the deepest parts of the sea, organisms survive under pressures that should crush them instantly. Every mile downward reveals something stranger than the last. But what happens when life is pushed into places where it shouldn't be able to exist at all? The ocean covers more than 70% of our planet, yet most of it remains unexplored. From the surface, it appears familiar. Waves crash against coastlines, sunlight reflects across the water, and fish swim through coral reefs teeming with life. But that world is only a thin layer at the very top of a much larger realm. Beneath it lies a place where the rules of life begin to change. As you descend into the ocean, every mile introduces a new challenge. Sunlight fades, temperatures drop, pressure increases. Conditions become progressively more hostile until the environment seems completely incompatible with survival. The first layer is the sunlight zone, extending to roughly 200 meters below the surface. This is the part of the ocean most familiar to us. Plants grow here, plankton flourish, food is abundant. Nearly all marine ecosystems ultimately depend on the energy entering through this bright upper layer. But the deeper you go, the less energy is available. Below the sunlight zone lies the twilight zone. Here, sunlight becomes weak and blue. Photosynthesis is no longer possible. There are no underwater forests, no fields of seaweed. Most food arrives from above in the form of drifting organic material known as marine snow. Yet, life continues. In fact, many of the ocean's strangest creatures begin appearing here. Descend farther and sunlight disappears completely. You have entered the midnight zone. This is a world of permanent darkness. Day and night no longer exist. Temperatures hover just above freezing, and the pressure becomes immense. Every creature living here must survive without ever seeing the sun. And still, life finds a way. Far below even this realm lies the abyss, a vast landscape of darkness covering enormous portions of the seafloor. Food becomes increasingly scarce. Animals move slowly to conserve energy. Some spend years waiting for a single large meal. Then comes the deepest realm of all, the Hadal Zone. Named after the ancient underworld, this region exists only inside deep ocean trenches such as the Marianatrench. Here, the pressure exceeds anything found elsewhere in the ocean. The deepest parts experience more than 1,000 times the atmospheric pressure at sea level. To us, these conditions sound impossible. Yet, evolution has spent millions of years solving problems that seem unsolvable. And the deeper scientists explore, the stranger those solutions become. Because in the darkness below, there are fish that can see through their own heads. And that's only the beginning. By the time you reach the ocean's twilight zone, survival has become a very different challenge. Sunlight is fading, food is becoming scarce, and predators can appear from almost any direction. In this dim world, vision remains one of the most important tools an animal can possess. The problem is that seeing in near darkness isn't easy. Most eyes depend on light. The less light available, the harder it becomes to detect movement, identify prey, or spot danger. As conditions grew darker over millions of years, many deep-sea creatures evolved larger and larger eyes in an attempt to capture every available photon. But one fish took this idea to an extraordinary extreme: the barreleyefish. At first glance, it looks almost ordinary. Its body is small and silver, rarely exceeding a few inches in length. But the moment scientists looked closely, they realized they were seeing something unlike any fish ever discovered. Its head is transparent. Beneath a clear, fluid-filled dome, you can see the fish's internal structures, including its eyes. For years, researchers were confused by this bizarre anatomy. Early specimens brought to the surface were often damaged, making it difficult to understand how the animal actually looked when alive. It wasn't until deep-sea cameras captured living barreleys in their natural habitat that the mystery finally began to unravel. The green structures visible inside the transparent dome are its eyes, and they are unlike the eyes of almost any other fish. Most of the time, the eyes point directly upward. This allows the barreleye to scan the waters above for silhouettes drifting against the faint traces of light filtering down from the surface. In the deep ocean, looking upward is often the best way to detect prey. But the fish has another remarkable trick. Its eyes can rotate. When prey comes within reach, the barreleye can shift its gaze forward, allowing it to track and capture targets with surprising precision. This gives it the ability to search above while still maintaining awareness of what's directly ahead. The transparent dome serves an important purpose as well. Large eyes are vulnerable. In a world filled with stinging tentacles and drifting predators, protecting such sensitive organs is essential. The clear shield covering the fish's head provides protection while allowing light to pass through almost unobstructed. It's an elegant solution to an impossible problem. And it's exactly the kind of adaptation that keeps appearing as scientists descend deeper into the ocean. The farther we go, the less life resembles anything we're familiar with. But even the barreleyefish depends on one thing: light. And deeper down, where darkness becomes absolute, some creatures developed a solution that seems even more impossible. They began making their own. As we descend deeper into the ocean, a point eventually arrives where sunlight disappears completely. There is no sunrise here, no moonlight, no faint glow from the surface, only darkness stretching endlessly in every direction. At first, this seems like an environment where vision should become useless. After all, what good are eyes if there is no light to see? Yet, many deep-sea creatures continue relying on vision. In fact, some possess enormous eyes specifically designed to function in these depths. The reason is simple. The deep ocean isn't truly dark. It's filled with living light. Scientists estimate that the vast majority of deep-sea animals can produce light through a process known as bioluminescence. Across the darkness, countless organisms flash, pulse, glow, and shimmer. Some emit brief bursts of light, others create continuous displays. Entire conversations may be taking place in flashes we still don't fully understand. For many creatures, bioluminescence is a way to communicate. The firefly squid is one of the most spectacular examples. Covering its body are thousands of tiny light-producing organs called photophores. When activated, these organs create brilliant patterns of blue light. During certain times of the year, vast groups of firefly squid gather near the surface, transforming entire stretches of ocean into glowing rivers of electric blue. To human eyes, the display is beautiful. To another squid, it may be a message. Scientists believe many bioluminescent species use light to attract mates, identify members of their own species, or coordinate behavior within groups. Yet, despite decades of research, much of this hidden language remains a mystery. Other animals use light for a very different purpose: hunting. The anglerfish may be the most famous example. Suspended in front of its mouth is a glowing lure that acts like a living fishing rod. Small fish and crustaceans see the light and investigate. What they don't see is the enormous mouth waiting behind it. The moment they get too close, it's over. The lure is not decoration, it's a weapon. Then there are species like the dragonfish, which take bioluminescence even further. Some dragonfish can produce red light, something extraordinarily rare in the deep ocean. Most deep-sea animals cannot see red wavelengths, meaning the dragonfish effectively carries a private flashlight that illuminates prey without revealing its own position. It's one of the closest things nature has ever created to night vision technology. Bioluminescence can also serve as a defense. Certain squid and shrimp release glowing clouds into the water when threatened. The effect is similar to a smokescreen, except the cloud itself emits light. Predators become distracted or disoriented, allowing the prey to escape into the darkness. The deeper scientists explore, the clearer one fact becomes. In the deep sea, light is far more than illumination. It's language, it's camouflage, it's deception, it's survival. And yet, even glowing bodies and biological flashlights cannot solve the ocean's greatest challenge. Because eventually, the pressure becomes so extreme that seeing in the dark is no longer the biggest problem. Simply existing becomes the challenge. And that's where life begins to look even stranger. At sea level, we live beneath a single atmosphere of pressure. We rarely notice it because our bodies evolved to function within it. But with every descent into the ocean, the weight of the water above increases. By the time you reach the deepest trenches, the pressure exceeds 1,000 times what we experience on land. To a human, such conditions would be instantly fatal. Bones would not save you. Steel would not save you. Even many submarines cannot survive there, yet countless deep-sea creatures do. What's surprising is that many of them don't survive by becoming stronger. They survive by becoming softer. At first, this seems completely backwards. When most people imagine an extreme environment, they picture animals evolving thicker armor, stronger skeletons, and more powerful bodies. But in the deep sea, rigidity often becomes a disadvantage. The reason is simple. Pressure doesn't just push on one part of the body. It pushes from every direction simultaneously. Any air-filled cavity becomes vulnerable. Any rigid structure experiences enormous stress. Soft bodies avoid many of these problems altogether. One of the most famous examples is the blobfish. The blobfish became an internet sensation because of its unusual appearance. When brought to the surface, it appears saggy, droopy, and almost melted. But that's not what it looks like in its natural habitat. Thousands of feet below the surface, the blobfish is perfectly adapted to its environment. Its body contains a gelatinous tissue with a density only slightly lower than seawater. This allows it to maintain buoyancy without relying on gas-filled swim bladders, which would collapse under deep-sea pressure. Instead of actively swimming through the water, the blobfish conserves energy by drifting and waiting for food to come within reach. It's an elegant solution in a world where every calorie matters. The Dumbo octopus follows a similar philosophy. Living at depths that can exceed 20,000 feet, this ghostly octopus moves through the darkness using two large fin-like structures that resemble ears. Unlike most octopuses, It rarely relies on energy-intensive jet propulsion. Instead, it glides gracefully through the water, conserving precious energy whenever possible. Its body is almost entirely soft tissue, no rigid armor, no heavy skeleton, no unnecessary structures. Everything about the animal is optimized for surviving immense pressure while using as little energy as possible, and this pattern appears again and again throughout the deep ocean. Many species have reduced skeletons. Others possess flexible cartilage instead of heavily mineralized bones. Some are so soft and gelatinous that they appear almost unfinished. But what looks fragile to us is actually one of evolution's greatest achievements. These creatures aren't resisting the crushing force of the deep ocean, they're working with it. Yet even these extraordinary adaptations have limits, because eventually pressure becomes so extreme that surviving requires more than a soft body. It requires changing life itself at the molecular level, and no creature demonstrates that better than the deepest fish ever discovered. As strange as blobfish and Dumbo octopuses may be, they still inhabit depths that are only part of the deep sea story. Far below them lies a realm where pressure reaches levels almost impossible to comprehend. This is the Hadal Zone, the deepest region of the ocean, found only inside trenches such as the Marianatrench. And it is here that fish approach their absolute limit. Meet the Mariana snailfish. At first glance, it hardly looks like a record-breaking survivor. Its body is pale, soft, and almost translucent. It lacks the powerful jaws of a shark or the intimidating appearance of a deep-sea predator. In fact, many people would probably swim past it without giving it a second thought. But the Mariana snailfish can survive at depths where almost every other fish on Earth would die. The challenge isn't simply the pressure acting on the outside of the body, it's what that pressure does to the molecules inside. Every living cell depends on proteins. These microscopic structures perform essential tasks throughout the body, helping cells communicate, process energy, and maintain life itself. Under extreme pressure, however, proteins begin to lose their shape. And when proteins lose their shape, they stop working. For most fish, that would be catastrophic. The snailfish evolved a remarkable solution. Its tissues contain unusually high concentrations of a compound called trimethylamine N-oxide, or TMAO. This molecule helps stabilize proteins, protecting them from the crushing forces of the deep ocean. You can think of it as a kind of molecular reinforcement system, allowing the fish's internal machinery to keep functioning even under immense pressure. Without it, life at these depths would be impossible. The snailfish has also abandoned many features common in shallow water fish. It has no gas-filled swim bladder. Such an organ would collapse instantly under Hadal pressures. Instead, the fish relies on specialized tissues and body chemistry to maintain its position in the water. Everything about it is optimized for one purpose: survival where fish should not exist. And yet, even the snailfish cannot descend forever. Scientists studying deep-sea fish noticed something fascinating. The deeper a species lived, the more TMAO it required. But increasing TMAO comes with consequences. Higher concentrations gradually alter the chemistry of the animal's body. Eventually, a limit appears. Researchers believe there is a depth at which fish can no longer add enough TMAO to survive without creating entirely new biological problems. Remarkably, the deepest fish ever observed alive was found very close to this predicted boundary. In other words, evolution may have discovered the maximum depth at which a fish can exist. An invisible line hidden within the ocean, a place where vertebrate life reaches its limit. And beyond that line, something extraordinary happens. Fish disappear completely, but life does not. Because below the deepest fish on Earth lies a world ruled by creatures even stranger than the snailfish itself. For most of Earth's history, fish have dominated the oceans. They occupy coral reefs, open waters, coastlines, and even some of the deepest environments on the planet. But in the Marianatrench, there comes a point where even fish can go no farther. And that's where the ocean becomes truly strange. Beyond the depth limit of fish lies a world ruled by entirely different creatures. The pressure here is so extreme that vertebrate life largely disappears, leaving the ecosystem in the hands of animals that evolved along very different paths. One of the most successful groups are the amphipods. At first glance, they resemble ordinary shrimp, but appearances can be deceiving. In the deepest trenches on Earth, amphipods have become some of the dominant scavengers. Whenever a dead animal sinks from the surface, these crustaceans are often among the first to arrive, and they arrive in enormous numbers. A whale carcass falling into the deep ocean is like a feast appearing in the middle of a desert. Within hours, amphipods can begin covering the remains, tearing away flesh and consuming every available source of energy. In a place where food is incredibly rare, wasting an opportunity is not an option. Yet amphipods are remarkable for another reason. According to the normal rules of ocean chemistry, many crustaceans should struggle at these depths. The immense pressure and cold water make it difficult to maintain hard protective structures. And yet, certain trench-dwelling amphipods continue to thrive, surviving thousands of feet deeper than scientists once thought possible. Some species have evolved unique chemical adaptation that help protect their bodies from the harsh conditions surrounding them. But even amphipods are not the strangest residents of this hidden world. That title may belong to the xenophyophorps. These bizarre organisms challenge one of our most basic assumptions about life. They are single cells, not colonies, not collections of cells working together. Single cells. And yet some grow large enough to be seen with the naked eye. Scattered across the trench floor, xenophyophores build elaborate structures from sediment particles gathered from their surroundings. They can reach sizes that make them giants among single-celled organisms, turning the seafloor into a landscape dotted with living architecture. It's difficult to imagine. A creature with no organs, no brain, no heart, no nervous system, and yet large enough to hold in your hand. The deeper scientists explore, the more often they encounter organisms like these, life forms that seem to ignore the rules we thought biology followed, and nowhere is that more apparent than at the deepest place on Earth itself, a location so remote that only a handful of humans have ever seen it. Nearly 11 kilometers below the surface of the Pacific Ocean lies Challenger Deep, the deepest known point on Earth. It is a place so remote that more people have walked on the moon than have visited this part of our own planet. Here, the pressure exceeds 1,000 times that at sea level. Temperatures hover just above freezing. Sunlight has never reached these depths. For centuries, scientists assumed nothing could survive here. They were wrong. Every expedition into Challenger Deep seems to uncover something unexpected. Tiny crustaceans crawl across the sediment. strange microorganisms thrive beneath the seafloor. Amphipods gather wherever food becomes available. Even in the most extreme environment on Earth, life refuses to disappear. What makes these discoveries so remarkable is that many of these organisms are not merely tolerating the conditions. They are adapted specifically for them. Some bacteria collected from the deepest parts of the trench appear to depend on extreme pressure to function properly. Remove them from that environment and their biological processes begin to fail. In other words, the very conditions that would kill most life are essential for theirs. Scientists have also discovered giant single-celled organisms, unusual crustaceans, and ecosystems built entirely without sunlight. Unlike the surface world, where nearly all life ultimately depends on photosynthesis, many deep-sea communities survive using nutrients recycled from above or chemicals emerging from the Earth's crust. And perhaps the most fascinating part is how little we still know. The Marianatrench remains one of the least explored environments on the planet. Every dive investigates only a tiny fraction of an enormous landscape. New species continue to be discovered. New adaptations continue to challenge our understanding of biology. The deeper we explore, the more impossible life appears. Yet, life keeps proving us wrong, because Challenger Deep is not a lifeless abyss at the end of the world. It's a frontier, a place where evolution has spent millions of years solving problems that seem unsolvable. And if the deepest point on Earth is already filled with creatures this extraordinary, what else might still be waiting in the darkness beyond our reach? Our journey began with a simple observation. The deeper scientists explore the ocean, the stranger life becomes. We descended through fading sunlight, past fish with transparent heads, discovered creatures that create their own light, and encountered animals so soft they survive by yielding to pressures that would destroy almost anything else. We followed life all the way to the limits of vertebrate survival, where even fish can no longer exist. And yet, life continued. Beyond the fish barrier, giant amphipods scavenged the seafloor. Single-celled organisms grew to sizes that seem impossible. Entire ecosystems survived in darkness without ever seeing the sun. Even at the bottom of Challenger Deep, nearly 11 kilometers beneath the waves, life found a way to endure. But perhaps the most astonishing fact is how little of this world we've actually explored. The vast majority of the deep ocean remains unmapped and unseen. New species are discovered on a regular basis. Every expedition reveals organisms that challenge what we thought life was capable of. And if every mile deeper reveals creatures that seem less and less possible, then perhaps the strangest life on Earth is still waiting in the darkness where no human has ever looked.